I think it has certainly shown the limits of that. And in a sense, you might argue it was a missed opportunity for Beijing. You know, if they had taken a position of trying to help bring this to a close and were able to mediate a successful end to the war, that would have garnered them, I think, a lot of prestige in the world by being so closely tied to Moscow and trying to walk a very fine line. It seems to me that's raised some eyebrows in a number of quarters. So I think the cost of the sort of full embrace of Russia that China is engaged in has not been trivial. And it'll be interesting to see if the fighting continues, if Beijing doesn't alter its position a little bit more going forward.
Stephen, broader global question, isn't it an abject failure of global leadership when we are in an environment where defense spending is going up? That appears to be the strategic priority, as opposed to post-pandemic spending, an overhaul of the health service, education on basic principles.
I think any time you see a war of this kind happen, it's a failure of leadership in a variety of sorts. It's clearly a miscalculation by Putin, a failure to understand what his real strategic circumstances were. I think it was a failure in the United States as well to not recognize how serious an issue Ukraine's alignment was for Russia and not to have engaged in somewhat more flexible diplomacy in the months before the war. I tend to view this, though, the fact that we are, as always, wasting more money on security and neglecting other problems that loom very large around the world is a sadly regrettable and near constant feature of world politics, where security is always taken very seriously by countries, and sometimes that leads them to neglect other priorities. It's part of the tragedy of much of modern contemporary power politics.